What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Juice. My name is Sayre Bedinger here, as always, Brendan Keckler, and we've got an awesome show for you today. We're excited to talk about the Denver Broncos. Excited that the season is drawing near. We're near training camp, just a couple weeks away. So the anticipation for football is mounting. Brandon, I know you can feel it in the air.
We're getting closer, but I still am considering cryogenics and just waking up at week one. But I don't know, maybe preseason week one.
It it's been the past, I don't know, I want to say like 5 weeks that it's just been kind of brutal. Like just nothing really worthwhile happening. A lot of fluff from OTAs. And yeah, there's some things that we can talk about from OTAs, like Jake Butt's one-handed catches. That's cool. Or hearing about the camaraderie that's being built. That's cool. But like these guys, they're going to put the pads on. They're going to start hitting each other. We're going to start getting some actual games with consequences. I mean,
Right.
it's time for that to start back up again. It feels like we're already past due.
Which that almost makes it tougher, is that because it makes that anticipation build even stronger. I was watching this video earlier today about Quentin Tarantino and his dialogue and why he's so good at certain things that he does. And one of the things is he just builds anticipation, and he puts these pieces at play, and you know that if they go wrong and if they interact in this certain way, this collision is going to happen. And usually the collision happens in kind of terrifying magnitude. So it's like the more we move toward the pieces coming together and we see them practicing and then we see the preseason games, it's just, yeah, it's building that Quentin Tarantino terror anticipation that it's almost too much to handle,
I'm picking up what you're putting down there.
you know.
Picking that up. What's Quentin Tarantino up to these days? I guess I don't hear much about
All
him.
right, so he's supposed to do a certain amount of films, and he's done, and he's like one film away from that, but
Hmm.
he's doing a Star Trek movie, and
Wait,
I'm not kidding. He pitched a
what?
Star Trek movie to J.J. Abrams, and he said the only way he would do it is if it's rated R, and J.J. basically went to bat for him, and they approved it, and so
No.
we're gonna see a Quentin Tarantino directed J.J. Abrams Star Trek film, and from what I read early on in some of the early buzz, is it's gonna heavily feature time travel.
Wow.
I have
Okay,
no. That's
that
too
sounds
many. Yeah, too many things in that concoction right there that to get
that
excited
is
about.
that's like when you go to like a fast food place and you take your cup and you just put every single kind of
Yeah. Oh yeah.
soda in your cup.
We call that the home run back
The
at
home
Bel
run.
Paso. Yep.
Yep. Yep.
Little League.
Wow.
Yep.
I like that little nugget we just started off with. In case you're listening, before that movie is released. I mean, breaking news right there. Quentin Tarantino, Star Trek. I mean, that's dope. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. And
I'll reserve.
I have no clue how it connects to what Abrams has done recently with the two he directed, and
Right.
then the third one he didn't. But yeah, I mean, hey, So anyway, that's not gonna count as his last movie, supposedly.
Okay, so he's got kind
So
of like a bonus.
he has one coming out. I think it's with Leo, and it has to do with the Manson family murders.
Whoa.
That's coming out as his ninth, and then he's got his 10th. The numbers might be off, but his second to last is this one that's coming out. Then he's doing Star Trek, which doesn't count because it's not an original. It's like 10 original movies. And then
Hmm.
Quentin's going to do one more, and then he's going to be done. And people have wanted it to be, the Kill Bill Volume 3, where he was going to let them grow up. That's probably not going to happen now. So who freaking knows?
Yeah. Well, I've got to say the of the three Star Trek movies, you can definitely tell that number three is not directed by J.J. Abrams because,
Right.
I mean, the first two were great, in my opinion. I really enjoyed them. And then the third one, I don't know. It just wasn't there for me. It didn't hit for
Here's
me.
the thing, because you're a Star Wars fan. One
That's
and
true.
two were directed by a Star Wars guy. Like the writers of 1 and 2 were Star Trek guys. So there was that
Okay.
authenticity. But
Yep.
the J.J. Abrams direction was a Star Wars guy coming on and doing Star Wars with the Star Trek IP. Yeah, and then you have
Yeah.
number three. Number three was much more like a Star Trek TV show.
Huh.
It was much more true to kind of the original, kind of more campy fan base. So you had the Star Wars spectacle kind of pulled out because that then got extracted and brought over to Force Awakens.
Interesting. Interesting. Speaking of Star Trek, I just for the first time in my life met somebody that I was like, "Hey, are you a Star Wars fan?" And they were like, "Actually, I'm a Star Trek guy."
Wow.
First time I ever met somebody who said
Wow.
that. Not that
Wow.
it's I mean, I know there's a lot of Star Trek fans out there, a
Oh,
lot of big time Star Trek fans, and that's great. That's awesome. I've just
yeah.
never met anyone where like I tried to strike up a conversation by being like, "Hey, are you a Star Wars fan?" And they're like, "No, actually, I'm a big Star Trek guy."
You need to go to more cons, man.
I do. I do.
You would love it.
I've been getting just enticed on Twitter, seeing all these advertisements about Comic Cons happening and Star Wars fan, gatherings and all that stuff. And
Yeah,
I've
start
been,
by
I've
going
been
to
jealous.
some of the smaller, dicier ones, in your local, the localist of spots.
Yes. Oh
I'm
my
sure
gosh.
there's some close to you, and go to those. Just kind of get your feet wet, get a little sample, and then you need to be pick out one of the like Comic Cons, or go to
Yes.
San Diego and make a whole event out of it, and yeah, you will not be disappointed.
Yeah, I need to do that. I was actually in Starbucks a couple weeks ago, and the person who was checking me out at the front counter noticed my Darth Maul shirt, and they were
Mm,
like, "Oh, that's awesome! Did you meet him when he came here?" And I was like, "Wait, what are you talking about?" And she was like, "Yeah, the guy who played Darth Maul came to Omaha Comic Con," and I was like, "You got to be
wow,
kidding me!" So I mean,
wow,
now that you bring that up, I remember that there's something that's happening here in like I think it's like
do it.
not next week, but like maybe a week and a half or 2 weeks from now is coming up here. So I'm gonna
Yeah,
have to
you got
do
to.
that.
Yeah, you have to. Speaking of which, I'm gonna say this a little quietly. So I'm here in Vegas with my buddy, and he hasn't seen Solo yet, and we're gonna
Oh,
go. And he is caught up with everything that happened, Darth Maul
hmm
wise, in Clone Wars and Rebels. So I've just been telling him, man, just biting my tongue, just like, bro, there's something special for you, something
oh
special
my
for you. I
gosh.
can't wait to experience it with you. So that's
That's the
happening.
best feeling when you know that somebody knows about the Clone Wars mall
Mm-hmm.
and you get to go see Solo with them for the first time and you get
Right.
to you just get that yeah, okay.
I
Yeah.
can't
So
contain myself, and it's like I've already seen it twice.
I
I'm
know.
just
I
ready for
know.
him to see that moment and just watch his jaw drop. It's gonna be
Yeah, that'll be awesome. And there's nothing more disappointing than when you're anticipating that and the people are like, "Wait, I thought he was dead."
right.
It's like, what are you doing? What are you doing with your time?
Last time I was here in Vegas, I watched with my buddy. I caught him up. I had made these Rebels movies. I told you about them.
Yeah, yeah.
I cut the seasons down into shorter films, and we watched it. So he saw the whole kind of Darth Maul Rebels anthology. So
Ah,
he's more ready than he knows to watch Solo right now.
man, that's exciting.
Yeah, it's gonna
Man,
be
that's
great.
exciting. Well, getting back to some Denver Broncos stuff, we kind of wanted today. We kind of wanted to go back. I was thinking about this the other day. I was sitting here trying to find stuff to write about and stuff to talk about because, well, there's really nothing to talk about and write about in the end of June and the beginning of July. I mean, there's literally
Right.
nothing going on, and so I mean, everything is just coming from okay, you know, what do I want to talk about? Like what interests me personally, and something that I thought of was just like, man, I haven't really like gone back and looked at the big picture. Like, if you were going to put this in a magazine, like, what is the Denver Broncos? What's the magazine saying about the Broncos offseason? Like, what happened the day after week 17, what happened in the months following, and just to kind of take a ride back to January, because 6 months of this, I mean, we're already halfway through this year. I mean, that's just nuts to me.
Yeah.
It's crazy how quick time flies, but it's also nice because, hey, we're back to football season. So,
Mm-hmm.
but I wanted to look back, and I wanted to start by looking at the decision that John Elway made. And so even going back further than January 2018, John Elway had to make a decision kind of almost late in the season when the Broncos were struggling. I mean, the 8-game losing streak. And then there were rumors that came out around that New York Jets game. I don't know if you remember this. There were rumors that came out at that New York Jets game that John Elway and the Broncos front office were considering firing Vance Joseph if he didn't win. I believe it was 2 or 3 more games in their final 3 or 4. I can't remember the exact number, but they came out that week, obviously, and just, I mean, they literally shut out the New York Jets, and then they beat the Colts for another victory. But there have been rumors swirling that Joseph's job was in jeopardy, and then that Kansas City Chiefs game came, the Week 17 game, and I remember very, very distinctly that there were rumors there were reports that Joseph had been fired prior to that game ending.
Wow.
And so Broncos country's all, oh, thank goodness, we're moving on from this. This was one of the worst seasons in team history, yada yada. Who do you think will replace? I mean, people were talking about replacing Vance Joseph and who would replace him, and it got so far. It got so far as some people were speculating that the Ravens might be so disappointed with John Harbaugh that they would fire John Harbaugh if the Ravens failed to make the playoffs. And so there were Broncos fans that were rooting for the Ravens to lose in Week 17 in hopes that John Harbaugh would get fired and somehow get hired by the Denver Broncos. I mean, talk about thinking 5, 6, 7, 800 steps ahead.
I was thinking, talk about a cool alternate universe, man.
I'm sick. I mean,
I would have been down for that.
There's been alternate universes where the Broncos hired both Jim and John Harbaugh,
right,
on separate teams, and I don't know which one I would prefer, honestly. John has won a Super Bowl against Jim, but I don't know. Jim Harbaugh has always been kind of that. He's always been intriguing to me since he had that success. Yeah, I would take Jim, I think.
I would take John over a lot of coaches though.
Oh, absolutely.
Including anything we've had in a while. But yeah.
So you had that kind of disappointment from. I mean, it's hard to say that because I mean that's this guy's livelihood; it's his job. But a lot of people were disappointed to find out that Joseph wasn't actually being fired, especially that specific day. Like people wanted him fired before that game was over. Literally, they wanted that to be. They wanted John Elway to come to the podium after the game and say, "Hey, yeah, we sent Vance home. Like this season was a disappointment. This won't be tolerated in Denver. Like we're gonna find the best coach to help us win." But John Elway did something, and this became sort of a theme for the offseason. John Elway did something that I don't think I can ever remember him doing. He exercised patience with somebody who failed completely. And although the Broncos standard is extremely high, and rightly so, I mean, this is a team that's had more Super Bowl appearances than losing seasons since Pat Bowlen bought the team. I mean, it's ridiculous. But John Elway has maintained that high standard, and for him to keep Vance Joseph says a lot about who John Elway is maybe becoming as an executive. And
then they exercise that same patience with Paxton.
Exactly. And were you surprised by that? Because I was.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't see either of those situations coming. I thought for sure.
So with Vance, I think there's like fans that are they need to see that dominance in the first year, and then those fans were dissatisfied and ready to throw him out and ready to go to the next thing. I'm more of a like 1.5 year person.
Yes.
I think there's some people that'll do the whole 2 year. I'm like a 1.5 year person. Like, show me in the beginning of this season, in the first half of this season, that there's something, and if we're midway through and there's nothing still, then I'm like, okay, I'm off. I'm off. Vance Joy is not it.
Yep.
But I'm still not willing yet for that year, a transition year for a guy that takes over as a head coach for the first time, to let that be enough of a sample size for me to throw him out. And that's where I'm choosing to trust Elway. They saw enough in him that he's going to grow and learn and get better, and that maybe perhaps just us having a better quarterback is going to be the whole difference maker.
Yeah. Why do you think that is, that people think at this point, for whatever reason, that they know more than John Elway?
That's an interesting question, and I think a lot of that has to do with fans' trust in maybe things that they'd gotten right in the past that the organization didn't. Then you do have a sense of like, we knew
Yeah.
this. I think going back to our boy Tebow, that's one of those things where we were right and other people weren't. So you get the sense of like, well, maybe they don't always 100% know exactly what they're doing. So then you want to trust them most of the time, but you don't have to trust them all the time. So it's finding that balance of like, what those situations are where maybe there's something that they're not seeing.
Right. And Broncos fans, more than many that I've come across, just writing about the NFL, writing about football, more than most fan bases, I would say, Broncos fans are really sentimental.
Mm-hmm.
And so
I
the
love it.
decision, I love it too. I think it's one of the best qualities.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it hurts in situations like this,
Of course.
where you didn't hire a guy like Kyle Shanahan, who has
Right.
Broncos blood running through his veins. I mean, you're telling me that guy didn't want to be the head coach of the Denver Broncos?
Yeah. We've
In
talked
20.
about this before.
Yep.
And I agree. Absolutely agree. That's going to be the hindsight story that we look back on. Is there's two middle of the pack teams right now in the Broncos and the Niners that could, both go in completely different ways, could go in similar ways. We're a huge variable,
Yes.
both those teams. And that conversation at the end of this year, looking back, and what we're going to be talking about as far as whether the Broncos should have got Shanahan or whether we made the right choice with Joseph.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the answer yet, but I'm excited for that conversation.
Yeah, I am too. I think it's going to be great, especially for John Elway, because it was Yoda who said, you learn from your failure. You learn best from your failures. He didn't say it like that. I'm not going to try to impersonate him on air here. Not while we're live. I need to prime that pump up. But I think that when John Elway has done over the past couple of years in learning from failures, mistakes as a general manager, look what he's learned from his mistakes evaluating offensive talent. He quickly learned from that in his first 2 years after drafting, and went and signed Peyton Manning. I mean, the guy, he understands the Brock Osweiler draft pick. I think John Elway is more than ever understanding the rule of hindsight and learning to trust other people as a front office executive. And that I think took him some time, because early on, I mean, he didn't really have to make very many tough decisions, would you say? I mean, he went out and he hired the best veteran coach that was out there in John Fox when he first got brought into the organization, and then he drafted Von Miller with his first ever draft pick. And I mean, there was a lot of stuff going on in that transition period, but I think more so than in the beginning, learning from Josh McDaniels' failures, I think Elway's learning from kind of his own, and making the necessary adjustments. But also, I love that Elway's not afraid to let his guys fail. He believes in Vance Joseph. He believes in what Vance Joseph brings to the table as a leader of men. That's why the Broncos hired him, is because he was the leader of men. That was the big thing that was being
I'm
talked
ready to
about.
see it. I'm ready
to see it as well. I did not see it last year. I'll say that. I mean, just because I'm as optimistic as anyone you'll meet. But that doesn't mean that last season wasn't a complete train wreck. And I felt like the Broncos were, arguably the worst coach team in the NFL last year. Based on, I mean, they didn't have the youth of the Cleveland Browns. They didn't have that excuse, you know.
Yeah, that's tough, man, to say. I mean, the worst coach, but we're not far from it, even if we're not,
Yeah, I mean, it just felt like on a weekly basis, the mistakes that they were making, the repeated similar mistakes, like for example, you look at Isaiah McKenzie being thrown back on the punt return team. Like, why is he doing that? Why does he keep throwing him back there when he knows that he's struggling? Like in baseball, a good manager doesn't put a struggling relief pitcher out onto the field in a pressure situation. Like you put that guy out, on the mound when there's no pressure, when you're up by 8 runs, and he can just go out there and throw and make mistakes, and it's not gonna cost you the game. But to put Isaiah McKenzie out there, when you're trying to win a game after
Was
he's
he
already
catching
fumbled
them
the
all in
ball
practice?
yeah, I'm sure he was. I'm sure he was having great
He
practice.
must have been.
Yep. I mean, he had to have been because he kept putting them out there. And that was just one of many mistakes that I felt like, man, this coaching staff is just not getting it right. They're going every single week and they're making these mental errors one after another that just they were inexcusable. And that ultimately does fall on Vance Joseph, and for them to have so many stars on defense, like that defense last year was still really good.
Yeah.
For them to have that many stars and to lose 11 games, I mean, it's just bad.
Hey, I like how underrated our defense is right now, though.
You know what? You're right about that because everybody thinks that the Denver defense has, arguably gotten worse. Not everybody in Broncos country, but outside of Broncos country, nobody's talking about them as one of the best defenses in the league.
Oh no, we're like 8 to 15 probably on everybody's ranks.
Yeah. Yep. Do you think? Okay, this is kind of just we're kind of just spitballing off of these prompts here. So I read the other day that somebody thinks the Broncos are an 8-8 team. Would you agree or disagree with that assessment? That's a 3-win improvement. You disagree?
I haven't decided yet exactly what I'm choosing for this year yet. So that's where I have some hesitancy. Yeah. I don't know, man. I think we're a 9-6 or a 10 or a 9-7 or a 10-16.
Yeah. I would say on paper, I mean, they deserve at least that much. I think one of the most telling stats for me, and this is my greatest defense that I could possibly give Vance Joseph, to circle back to the topic of Vance Joseph. The greatest defense that I could possibly give him is that in the Broncos' 5 wins last year, their average quarterback rating in those victories was like 97 or 98 something. And in their losses, it was under 68.
Wow.
So 11 games, the quarterback rating I mean, that's 3 different guys. In 11 losses, the quarterback rating was under 68, and in 5 wins, the quarterback rating was over 97. I think Case Keenum's was like 98 something.
That's where I feel comfortable. Like, I think our biggest problem has been that lack of a quarterback position. And Case is, as we've said a million times, and everyone's said a million times, he's a huge upgrade. He's the biggest difference maker in our offseason. And if that is what we hope it is, and he's healthy, and he can get the ball to our plethora of wide receivers and a healthy Jake Butt, and we can do something hopefully in the run game, and our O-line's healthy. Like, there's no reason that with that defense on the other side that we're doing anything less than 8-8.
Yep, I agree. I think you're right on what you said. What you said about this team and where we're kind of at, just the current state of the team. As far as Vance Joseph specifically, what you said about him, and just like, I'm willing to give it, half of this season to kind of just say, all right, if we're 8 games through the season and we're and we're less than 500, I think that's a cause for concern. If we're like borderline out of playoff contention by
What's
halfway
our
through the
first 8
season.
games? Let's look real quick.
First 8 games on the schedule.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't even looked at the Broncos schedule.
I'll tell you what I'll accept. I'm gonna look at this and I'll tell you what I'll accept. I might not accept 4-4. Let's see. Bear with us, folks.
Yep. I've got the schedule pulled up here.
Okay, me too.
Week 1 at home. Is that at home? Home game against the Seahawks.
I love it.
I love it too. That's the second time since Super Bowl 48 that they've opened the season against the Seahawks. That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I won't accept 4-4. We need to be 5-3 by week 9.
Week 9. So the Broncos have a week 10 bye week. Their games in those first 9 weeks: home against the Seahawks and Raiders, on the road against the Baltimore Ravens, home against the Chiefs, on the road against the Jets, home against the Los Angeles Rams, road games against the Cardinals and Chiefs, and then home against Houston.
Okay, so by the bye week.
By the bye week, I say, okay, so Seattle's not what they used to be, especially on defense. You've got to win that game, especially at home.
Mm-hmm.
I say that's a win by 3 or 4 points. Raiders at home, at worst, you need to split with Oakland, and typically you favor the home game. So I'll say that they beat the Raiders at home, so they're 2-0. In Baltimore, 1 p.m. start, I don't like that. The Broncos never play well on the East Coast in the early time slot. It's just one of those weird things. So I'll say in the first 3 games, I'll say 2-1 somehow. Chiefs at home in prime time on Monday Night Football. I mean, that's Case Keenum's time to shine, baby.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to think that's a momentum shifting.
That's where it's veteran versus the kid, man.
Yep.
Case is gonna get it done in prime time.
Do you remember? I know you remember this. I know you remember this. 2015, week 2 in Kansas City. The Broncos had just come off that emotional win at home against the Baltimore Ravens, and then they went to Kansas City and they were kind of getting beat up on a little bit, and everyone was kind of thinking, well, Peyton Manning's past his prime. This Denver team's not going to be able to compensate offensively for what their defense is capable of doing. And then Peyton Manning led them to that comeback win where Bradley Roby punched the ball, or Bradley Roby took the fumble return for a touchdown against the Chiefs to beat them. That game is kind of symbolic of what an early game against the Chiefs means to me at this point, because if you can get that early division win against a team as tough as Kansas City, that's huge.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I'm kind of thinking if this Case game comes out and the offense, if the offense is even somewhat rolling early, yeah, that Ravens game maybe, but I don't see. We go 5-0 into the Rams game. I'm going full homer right now, but I don't even see if our offense is doing what it needs to do, and we're not beaten and battered defensively, and we have most of our pieces defensively. I see us going 5-0 into that Rams game. I don't see any of those opening 5 being a problem, and we better come out strong against the Seahawks. That's one of those emotional games.
Yes.
I'm looking over the schedule. That's the one that might matter the most to me. It's still that, it'll never satisfy what is owed.
It
to
still
my
stings.
Soul.
It still stings.
From
that's
48.
That's a big game for Vance. Speaking to the point of Vance Joseph having a big year, that's a big game for Vance.
Make a statement, and not only that, I mean, the reason we lost was because of the Legion of Boom, and they're all gone. So now it's Russell and the leftovers versus us. So I'm ready for us to just go in there and punch them in the mouth.
Yep. And I'm with you there.
At home.
It's the homecoming of Brandon Marshall.
Oof. Ooh, I forgot about that. I love it.
I love it too.
I love it.
The
And
This is getting me excited for some
there's no
ball,
way we
man.
don't destroy Gruden week 2,
No,
bringing him into Denver.
I've got to say, I'm getting sick of hearing about Gruden and how great the Raiders are going to be because of Gruden when he's talking about kicking it back to 1998. I don't get it. I don't understand it.
Me neither.
I like the quarterback camp. I loved Gruden on Monday Night Football, unpopular opinion. But as a head coach again in the NFL, I'm going to go ahead and hold
Wait,
off on my.
it's unpopular to like quarterback camp?
No, it's unpopular to like Gruden on Monday Night Football. People on
Got
Twitter
it.
just
I
destroy
love
him.
I love Gruden. Love
Yeah.
Gruden on Monday Night Football.
Yep. He made it watchable for me, to be honest. Monday
Then
Night Football is not a great product.
no. But Romo really came in and showed you the next level of announcing that we may not have even seen yet.
What he did last year was incredible.
I think he raised the bar.
He did. He
I mean,
really did.
I'm a young gun, so I know there's some people out there that are rolling their eyes because I didn't hear so and so back, in the broadcast of like '68. But
Sure.
I think that as far as my lifespan, Romo just took the bar higher than it's been.
He did. He did because he incorporated a very intimate knowledge of the game with the passion that we all have as fans.
Yeah.
And he wasn't biased.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And the insight, man, those YouTube videos that were just like of him him predicting everything. All right, here's exactly what he's going to do right now.
Amazing.
Bam. And just time after time after time. I love it.
Amazing. It was truly remarkable. Okay, so when do we have Romo? We got Romo because he's with CBS. So he should be calling the Raiders game. He should be unless there's a bigger game that week than Oakland versus Denver. He should be calling that game. That's the slot right there. He could be calling the Houston game in November. Could be calling the Steelers or the Chargers game. 49ers. The Chargers game to end the year. I don't know. I actually
49er game would be fun.
That would be fun. That would be really fun.
It's the one out of every 4 years where my two favorite teams play each other.
Right?
It's gonna be a good one.
This is exciting.
Friends, so all my Niner fan friends are gonna be going to it.
Oh, of course they are.
I would go to a game. I would go to a game in Niner Stadium. I would never go to a game in the Coliseum against the Raiders. I'm waiting for Vegas to finally go to my first Broncos Raiders away game. I've been waiting for this.
I've only heard stories. I've only heard stories of the black hole, and I've heard stories of people getting stabbed, and I'm just not about that.
No. I have instincts, man, and they tell me like red flags. And then I was talking to my buddy, and he was like, "Yeah, I was a little kid. I went to one of the games, and I watched this Bronco fan get kicked down a flight of steps." And I'm like, nah, that's me, man. Like, because I told people before, like, I have to either be completely quiet, or I'm gonna get kicked down a flight of steps.
Yep.
And I can't be quiet.
No,
I'm not that kind of a Bronco fan. Like, yeah, I'm way too. Yeah, no, I would not come out of that place alive. Yep. So I'm waiting. The Las Vegas crowd is going to be more multicultural and like spread out amongst different teams.
Yeah.
Higher chance of living.
Yeah, higher chance of living. It's going to be more like an event rather than a Raiders home game.
Dude, escaping out of a death arena. Yeah.
Yep.
It's like a post-apocalyptic movie going to watch a Raider game.
Did I ever tell you about the time that I got punched at a Vikings game?
No.
Yeah, so I was just standing in line at the concessions, just waiting to get, just a drink or whatever. And I had my Broncos.
What year was this?
This was the Tebow year.
Okay.
This was the Tebow year. So
he threw for 300 in that game?
Yeah. Yep, It was great. It was definitely worth it. So I was just kind of standing there, and this guy just came up to me, and he was just like, I don't even remember what he said, but then like he looked at me like you didn't just hear what I just said, and then he punched me in the gut and walked away.
No.
Yeah.
it's one of those great mysteries to where you still are, like, to this day don't know like what he said to
Like,
you and what you
what's
did
wrong with
wrong.
you? Yeah. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. So I got punched in the
Wow.
gut at the Metrodome, and I've never forgotten it. But I have
Wow.
forgiven. I have forgiven, but I've never forgotten. So
It's dangerous. It's a dangerous place, man. Like
it is.
NFL fandom's real. I know it's no. I think soccer's still got to be like international soccer's got to be the gnarliest.
Oh
Like
yeah.
those fans are just they're number one. We can't take that crown.
Yeah.
But
Nope.
I mean, and especially when it comes to Raider fans, and I back them, man. Like as far as like I get Raider fan, I get their back. Niner fans went into holes when the Niners are bad.
Yep.
Raider fans every single year are like right there, ready for their 16-0 season. Like every
Yep.
single they're hardcore. They die hard. Win, lose, everything. Raider fans. I've spent my whole life around these guys, and they are a great fan base when it comes to supporting a losing team.
Sounds a
And
lot like the Cubs.
yeah,
The Cubs fans.
yep.
Just the lovable losers. And I
I
like that's what the Raiders are to me. They're the losers of the NFL.
I felt bad, like even just saying what I was saying. I'm like, am I really praising like Raider fans like this? But it was like a violation of my inner like core being. Like, what are you doing?
That was
But
nice of you to say that. That was really nice
yeah,
of you. That
I
was
grew up around these people, man. So like, I gotta like share holiday tables with them, and
yeah.
they're humans too.
They're,
Contrary to popular belief, they do have souls.
they have souls, they have heartbeats.
Yeah.
There's
And no, I mean, the Niner fans absolutely are shameful when their team is terrible. And Raider fans, maybe they're just calibrated to it. Maybe they're just used to losing consistently with the
yeah.
past, couple decades, but
They
they
Raiders
lose with
fans,
style.
they do. They absolutely do. They're the embodiment of expect the worst, hope for the best.
Yep.
And they do. They hope for the best every year. They do.
Yep.
All
And
right.
they're passionate
They are.
regardless of success.
Absolutely they are. I mean,
That's not something you could say about a lot of teams.
that's exactly right. If they could win 4 games a year, it would be their home games against or 3 games a year, it would be their home games against division rivals. They could go 3-13 if they won at home against the Broncos, Chiefs, and Chargers. You'd hear about it all off season.
Oh yeah.
Well, we
Oh
beat you
yeah.
guys at home.
Oh yeah.
You guys can't come into the black hole and beat us. You guys haven't proven. I mean, you would hear about that. Absolutely.
There'd be an Ice Cube music video that goes viral about it.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
That's good. That's rich. That's nice right there.
Yeah.
Well, keeping on with the Broncos offseason recap, that was all Vance Joseph. Vance, you heard it here first, Vance. I mean, what else do you need after what we just said? I mean, kick it into high gear, brother. We're banking on you.
I won't accept anything less than 4-1 going into that Rams game.
I agree. Looking at the schedule, I agree because you've got 3 home games and then 2 road games against bad teams. That's what it is.
You
The
know
Jets
what?
aren't good.
I just thought of an interesting comparison. Speaking of our favorite season,
Yes.
you know what this is going to be? If Vance Joseph loses to the Seahawks week 1, it's
Mm.
going to be Kyle Orton losing to the Raiders week 1 in the Tebow season. It's
Oh
going
my
to be
gosh.
that thing where it's like you gave him a chance,
Yep.
but already in week 1, you're like, all right, that's all I needed to see. It's not him,
100% accurate
So
because
if we're not 1-0
everybody,
going into the Raider game, there it is.
yeah, because everybody's expecting him to lose that game, and him losing that game will validate. Well, yeah, we knew John Elway should have fired you coming out. I mean, you can't even win at home against the Seahawks who don't have the Legion of Boom anymore. I can already
Right.
hear the people I can
I
already see
can
the tweets
I
popping
can
up.
already hear myself shouting Tebow in the stands. You
Bring him back. He's an
know?
all-star. Did you hear about that?
Yeah, I
That's
did.
awesome, huh? That's
Yeah.
cool. Yep,
Keeps doing the impossible, man.
he does. He keeps proving people wrong no matter what. I mean, that's crazy. Well,
I still can't believe I went on a rant praising Raider fans.
I know that's live. We're live. So
You need
that's
to.
out there for the world to hear.
Oh, we are live.
We are.
I was gonna say, I think it's time to go into the editing studio and give that one a good little snip snip.
Leave that little cut out there.
Goodness. Yeah,
No,
well, raw and uncut on the juice, folks.
raw and uncut on the juice. That's right. That's absolutely right. Speaking of raw and uncut, there was probably no player that was more raw and uncut for the Denver Broncos over the past 4 years than Aqib Talib.
Mm.
2 Chainz,
Mm.
our man. What was your initial reaction when he was traded to the Rams?
I think we've been embracing it,
Yeah,
and especially when there was a gamut of guys where they were like looking at, we got to get rid of 2 out of 4 of these dudes. Talib was the one that was the obvious one where the position group was
yeah,
probably, especially his age mixed with the depth of the position group was something we could afford to do. I kind of wanted to let go of Talib and not let go of CJ, but
yeah,
we ended up losing both. But anyway, yeah, man, I loved Talib as a personality. I loved his character that he brought, as far as not like humility character, but like his storybook character that he
yes,
brought, the vibrancy. And so yeah, I'm definitely gonna be looking forward to the Peters Talib duo in St. Louis, because I know he's got a couple good years still left in him. But I'm also like, that would have been a move I made in Madden. Maybe
yes,
even a year prior to that. I would have traded him as he crossed over, 32 or 31, 32, and I would have got something for him and started the youth movement. So I think that was something inevitably we need to do. No fly zone needs to be a continuing tradition, and that will carry forward through Harris.
yep.
So it's time to make that. Sometimes you gotta blow a few pieces of it up in order to rebuild.
Yeah, and that's hard to do sometimes, especially with a player like Talib, who meant so much to one of the best defenses the Broncos have ever had. So again, that brings us back to that sentimental thing with Denver Broncos fans. Like Aqib Talib was part of some of the best memories that we've ever had as fans.
Right.
And so letting him go, regardless of the cost, is tough. But I'm with you. I was expecting it. I think we've been expecting it since he signed that contract back in 2014. I mean, it was structured as such that the Broncos would have basically no dead money on the books if they cut him after 4 years. And so you just kind of project 4 years ahead. Okay, he'll be 32 at this point in time, and the
Right.
Broncos will be able to save $11 million. That's typically just how it goes. So
Yep.
unfortunately, that's the business side of the NFL, but it is tough to say goodbye to Aqib Talib. Uh, I'll move on to the next topic with this statistic. Aqib Talib, in his 4 years with the Denver Broncos, scored 6 touchdowns.
Mm.
Unbelievable.
Mm.
Dude's a playmaker, man. He's just good. He's good at what he does. He makes plays on the football. He scores. I mean, you think about that 2015 season. What would have happened in week 1 if he hadn't taken that interception for a touchdown against Baltimore in week 1? You know,
Right.
that was huge. And all of the interceptions for touchdowns that he had. I mean, even last year, in a pathetic year, one of the best memories I have is when he picked off Dak Prescott and took it to the house
Mm-hmm.
against the Dallas Cowboys. That was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So mile high salute to Aqib Talib. Definitely will be missed. His chain
And just the
snatching.
whole 2 Chains incident, and it's so funny because like my dad, as a Niner fan,
Oh yeah.
hates a lot of the ex Niners, and
Yep.
Crabtree was one of them. He hated when he held out. you know,
Yep.
and then him being the guy that my dad hates that whole kind of Niner team. He loves Harbaugh, but he hates the whole kind of Kaepernick and Crabtree, everybody that put that stain on the Niners undefeated Super Bowl record because they had gone and won every one prior to the Kaepernick loss. So he hates Crabtree. So he hates the whole gold chain thing. My dad's a classic. You know, like he wants the players to rip out the dreadlocks and like pull off the
Yep.
chains and like all of that. You know, he's a purist.
Hmm.
You didn't have that stuff back then. So he's like, you know, him seeing his ex-Niner guy get his chain just ripped off multiple times. That very much satisfied my father.
It was satisfying, even as someone who just had developed a disdain for Crabtree as a Raider. But I can only imagine for somebody who saw him in his 49er days.
Oh, yeah.
Even though I'm still saying that was pass interference in the Super Bowl
Yep.
and back in
Yep.
2012. That was PI, man. Crabtree got played. He deserved that penalty.
That's
So
another one of those. I mean, if this was a Niner podcast, man, just that play
yeah,
going differently. Just
that
that play.
what does that do for Kaepernick's career? My gosh.
Harbaugh's wouldn't have got fired as a Super Bowl winning coach.
Nope.
Hmm.
Dang.
Crazy.
A new universe to explore.
Where would
Oh,
America's cultural civil war be without Kaepernick?
oh my
uh,
gosh.
wow,
Oh,
wild times.
it is wild times, and it's gonna be really wild times if Case Keenum can step it up this year.
Yeah.
It's gonna be fun. I mean, like I haven't been excited about the Broncos offense since 2014 because I knew at the end of 2014 you could tell that Peyton Manning was on the decline. And so starting in 2015 and especially in that first game, it was like, okay, like what is going on here? Like, is this even worth it? I mean, I was calling for Brock Osweiler. It was that bad. And so
I was calling for Tebow, but yeah.
I mean, if Tebow could just be on call, I mean, and technically he probably kind of is, he's on call. You can call him anytime you want.
Yeah, he is.
Um,
He'd be here to save the freaking world and the children
yes,
simultaneously.
he wouldn't have relinquished the time stone.
No.
He wouldn't have done that. He wouldn't have relinquished that. He would have just destroyed everybody that opposed him, and still somehow managed to get all of those people to like him. That's it. That's what he would have done. I don't know how
Yep.
he does it.
He would have healed half the universe.
He would have. He wouldn't have destroyed it. He would have healed it, and he wouldn't have needed to destroy half the universe in order to achieve inner peace because he already has it.
Yeah, he would use the gauntlet to build freaking instant homes in the Philippines, and it would
Yeah.
be awesome.
Is
Yep.
Tim Tebow the new Chuck Norris?
Hmm.
I don't know if he's at that level yet.
Yeah, I think there's something different. I think it's like another category.
Yeah,
It's
I
another
think you're right.
category. I think there's another brand. There's another breed of Tebow jokes.
Yeah, there is. Absolutely, there is.
Oh, so are you excited about any films coming out?
You know, I I don't know. I don't know whether to be excited about Ant-Man and the Wasp. I know that a lot of people are saying that it's really good. Um, so I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I want to see it. It looks
You
good.
want to? Yeah.
Yeah, it looks good. I still just like it's going to be painful watching it, knowing that it's all taking place before Infinity War, because I just want to go to a Marvel movie that gives me like a sneak peek at
Yeah.
where things are going, you know. But yeah, no, I love Evangeline Lilly from Lost, and
I
of
know.
course Paul Rudd as Ant-Man's great. So no, I'm excited about it. It's
Yeah,
not going to
that'll be
be
good.
the greatest, but I think it'll be a good
You
read.
into Jurassic World?
Dude, I'm stoked for it, man. Like I'm gonna give it a chance. I wasn't a big Jurassic World 1 fan. I went to it with a bunch of my buddies, and we were all kind of a little dissatisfied about it. I like the nostalgia like the nostalgic aspects of it, but that's kind of one of those things where you're gonna like that regardless.
Right.
But I watched it again for the first time about a month ago, and it was a little bit better than I remember it being, but it definitely wasn't good. And then I'm gonna go into two fresh slate and give it a chance. I love Chris Pratt, man, but like one of the biggest problems, very briefly, with Jurassic World was that they made the main they perceived the story as the main character was Bryce Dallas Howard, and then they marketed the movie as if the main character was Chris Pratt. But they structured the whole story based upon it being her story, which I just thought was it ended up being a weird move. That didn't really translate. That didn't really come across on screen that she was the main character. And then those kids were just like they were just forgettable. Yes. Very forgettable, especially compared to the Jurassic Park kids. So I think it was a tough load for a guy that's done a couple movies, Colin Trevorrow, to take on the legacy of Spielberg and relaunch the franchise. But he did a good job. It was a good movie. I don't want good Jurassic movies. I want really, really, really good ones. Really great ones.
If you're bringing dinosaurs into things, it has to be epic.
Yeah.
And I mean, they did some pretty cool stuff in that movie, but I just felt like you kind of figure out what was going to happen,
Right.
And that's
she's letting down her hair, and she's running in heels from the T-Rex, and it all played out very conventionally, and it's like, I don't know, almost like a Jurassic Park 3D ride you'd sit in, and like, oh yeah, and you go through the thing in the gyroscope, and it felt like it was always that deep. It was always like one layer deep, and I don't know, man. I'm still scared of velociraptors and T-Rexes to the point where, like, if you put them in the right situation, that survival situation still scares me. I don't need extra dinosaurs. I don't need them to like cross create and make all these extra crazy, crossbreeds. I think it kind of cheapens how scary just the regular dinosaurs are. It's like almost like seems like a lack of creativity to where they need to and they're very self-aware about it. They talk about how, audiences are very dull with, what they've already seen. So you got to give them the new, kind of commentary on like blockbusters in the filmmaking process. So you always got to make it bigger and better. But, man, I think that sometimes when you make it smaller, but it's more grounded and more real, and you get that organic kind of suspense, like I want to care about the people in the movie. And I always like Chris Pratt, but I didn't care about the characters in Jurassic World. So I hope I care about the characters in Fallen Kingdom. But we shall see.
Yeah.
We shall see.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited to see it. I mean, just there's certain franchises of movies that when I see a preview come on in the theaters, I'm like, how are they not out of stories? How are they not out of ways to release dinosaurs on this island?
Oh, and there's so many ways you can still go with it, man.
Yep.
So many ways. So many ways. I think that if it gets to a boring place, it's because boring people are in charge. Yeah. I don't think that the Jurassic Park IP is anywhere close to tapped out yet.
Yep.
And the only thing that they're going to do is like locking out. If they can lock themselves out, if they put themselves in a position to where, the world is never ever going to accept a park of dinosaurs because we've tried this like twice and people died both times in very public spectacles. There's to a point where like the public wouldn't trust this company anymore. That's a hole they could put themselves in. But as far as like running out of toys to play with in the sandbox of the Jurassic Park story universe, there's so many things you can do, and just give an island away to them. Like have it be a failure, have it be where the park's a disaster, park can never happen, and just give them a dinosaur island where they can't get off of, like a Lost World again, whatever, and just Tell me some stories with that and continue that story forward. But give me some people that I care about and put them into some situations where they're getting chased by freaking raptors. And I'm going to love it. And I'm going to
Yep.
go every time.
Yep.
Every time.
100%. 100%. Yeah, I'm with you on that. I don't know. I don't know that there's any other movies that I'm like eagerly anticipating. And that's, partly because I don't exactly know what's all like on the docket. Like I'm not exactly sure. I don't know what's coming in the next like 2 or 3 months necessarily, if that makes sense. I just don't. I haven't looked that far ahead
You know
and
what I'm
haven't
looking
seen
forward
previews in
to?
a while. Yeah,
Super Bowl 52, Denver Broncos.
that's amen, man. February 2019. Get there,
2019.
be there,
Mm-hmm.
Houston. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And how cool would it be if Case Keenum, the Houston boy, started in a Super Bowl in Houston? I mean, that would be ridiculous. That would be
Wow.
ridiculous.
Coming back home.
Coming back home.
Add it to the story, man.
Added to the story. That would be like Devin Wade, That'd be like Devin Wade worthy.
Well, it's happening to my Madden. He's playing back in Texas, where he went to high school. Storybook, man.
It it would be amazing, to be honest. And now that I look, the Super Bowl is in Atlanta, so the story's dead. Super Bowl
Well,
53 is in Atlanta. It was a
Case
cool.
Keenum spent his summers in Atlanta. No, just kidding.
There's an
Trying to save you.
interesting. So I googled Super Bowl 53, and
Mhm.
there's like that video section on YouTube. The number one video on there is a picture of Case Keenum. It's 43 seconds. Super Bowl 53 prediction from CBS Sports.
I love it.
I love it too. I do. I would love to see
Year
a
two.
Denver miracle.
Yep.
Denver miracle happens.
Mm.
Case Keenum takes the Broncos to the Super Bowl in year one, and it's not. It to me, it doesn't feel out of reach. I know we're going over our usual time here, but it doesn't feel like a Super Bowl is out of reach, and we'll have a full predictions episode later on. But I don't feel like the Broncos are not. I feel like they're a legitimate candidate. Like you could throw them into the mix, and I don't think it's laughable. They could go from worst to first, and they could win it all.
19-0. You heard it here first on the Juice.
19-0. 19-0 until we ain't. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Why would you not believe that? I don't understand it.
Can't prove me wrong.
A lot of fans pride themselves on being, they say, realistic. They pride themselves on it. I wouldn't be proud of that. I feel like I can be realistic. Like I'm not gonna like if somebody was like if you had to bet your life on it, what's the Broncos record year? I'm not gonna say 19-0, but
Mm.
like if I had the choice, like what would you want the Broncos record to be this year? 19-0.
Mm.
I don't know. I feel like there's a time for realism, like a life or death situation.
Yeah.
When you're talking about and you know what? I would rather be wrong about predicting a good season like that than be wrong about predicting like a 7-9.
Mm.
If I predicted 7-9 or 6-10 and they went 13-3, I'd be like, I would want my fandom to be renounced.
Well, especially if they were threatening to take out your family if you're wrong.
Yeah.
And you guessed low.
Yep.
Yeah, not only your family's lives gonna haunt you forever, but
Yeah. You didn't
the
believe in
fact
your
that
own
you went
team.
low,
Yeah.
it's like you didn't believe in yourself. That's
Yep.
that's an existential problem
Yep.
all bad.
You mentioned this earlier. You mentioned the departure of CJ Anderson. You
Mm.
didn't want that to happen.
Mm.
Was that more difficult for you than Aqib Talib?
Oh yeah, easily.
Why is that?
I think it was Talib. You'd been kind of prepping. He's getting older.
Yeah.
Came in as a free agent. You know, we got everything out of him we needed to get out of him. With CJ, I think him coming in and proving himself and earning a spot on the roster and his whole story taking place here and him giving his whole heart to the team and still having probably a good 2-3 years left in him.
Mm.
That was harder.
Yeah.
That was harder.
Because he's only 27.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
No, yeah. And you know, if he can heal up, you know, he also has had you know, he hasn't had a terrible workload every year.
No.
So, I wouldn't say he's got a lot of tread, but you know, I think he's gonna have at least a good couple years. So that's tough, especially with how cheap running backs are. That just would have been a Madden decision I would have made. You know,
Yep.
as far as like I would have paid him whatever you got. You know,
Would you give? I wrote about this the other day. Would you give $2 million to DeMarco Murray and bring him in?
no,
I wouldn't either.
no,
I don't think he's an
no,
upgrade.
no, and that's where I think you pull the trigger on that if you get to, you know, week 3 of preseason and you don't have a guy that's busted out.
Yeah.
Then you
Yep.
go and you sign AP or DeMarco for
Yep.
whatever, veteran minimum or whatnot. And then that's fine. They can compete. But you're looking for the guy to emerge before that, or then you go to that. But you need to right now. You need to get your young kids, a whole stable of them that we have. You need to get those kids reps, and important reps in games. You know,
Yep.
so
Yep.
that's where a veteran would take away from that.
Yep. I agree. What was your favorite non-draft pick move of the offseason?
Non-draft pick, non-case move.
Yep.
Sua Craven's easy.
Yeah. Yep.
No question.
Yeah. Just his personality. I think the Broncos brought in amazing personalities. And you can tell that they were strategic about it because everybody that they brought in was either a captain on their college team or a captain on their old NFL team. But in the case of two players specifically, Sua Cravens and Marquette King, they weren't captains, but they have infectious personalities.
Yeah.
I find that very interesting.
Yeah, they're gonna symbiotically attach to the
Yes.
organism, to the team, to the body around them. And he's gonna be a fun guy, fun personality. I like that vibrancy. I like that character. I want to see creativity on defense. I
Yep.
want to see them use the pieces we have, and he's a creative piece. He's a creative weapon that they can, you know, situationally use, as we've talked about before, in really cool ways. So I want to see that creative use of him. I want to see his personality. Us being able to stop the tight end. Yeah, there's a lot of cool things I think that come with in the fact that he's 26, you know, and
He's actually only 22. Sua.
20, 22.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
jeez,
Insane.
he's 20. Okay, so we got 3 just young, solid. I love when we lock pieces in.
Yes.
You know, for guys that could be here for a bit, that are going to be young and cheap in the meantime, and then could be the guys in the long run. And that's where that move right there does all of that.
Yep. And something cool for those listening that you may not know. So Sua Cravens was acquired from the Washington Redskins this year in a trade, and the Broncos had worked on that trade, I would say, for probably at least 4 or 5 weeks, if not longer. And the reason they did that is because Cravens they had a first round grade on Cravens coming out of the 2016 NFL draft, and he was really good in his rookie season for the Washington Redskins. Well, after that rookie season, in case you haven't read about this or didn't know about this before, Cravens essentially retired. He essentially quit football. He lost the passion for it. He was going through some serious stuff, you know, off the field with not like legal issues or like anything like that, but just like mentally, emotionally, physically. He was drained and he was kind of burnt out about football. And so because he was out last year on the retired list, his contract didn't count last year. So he still has 3 years left on his rookie deal. So the Broncos got a young 22-year-old player for basically nothing. I mean, a fifth round. They gave up essentially a fifth round
That
pick
trade
after
is
everything's said and
ridiculous. It was
done.
like a fourth, it was like a fourth, a fifth, and
Yep.
a conditional sixth
Yep.
for Cravens, a fourth, and a fifth.
Yeah.
And with one of those fourths, we got Deshaun Hamilton.
Isn't that
So
amazing?
that trade's already looking like really good, really
Yeah.
good.
I feel like the Broncos definitely got the better end. I think the Redskins, with their fourth round pick that they got from us, I think they took Troy Apke. I haven't heard much about him this offseason. He's a
Oh, sad. I don't even
safety
know who
from
that
Penn
is.
State. Yeah. So he kind of blew up at the combine. He wasn't like overly productive in college, but he had a great combine like all Penn State guys did this year. And so yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens for sure. I think that Denver clearly on paper has won that trade, getting Cravens in the first place, but then adding in the Hamilton pick I mean, that's just phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I think since you picked Cravens, I think he would be number one on my list. I think a close second for me on non-Keenum, non-draft pick acquisitions. I really like the pickup of Marquette King. I
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
I love the fact that he went to the Oakland Raiders facility and did his horse dance
Yep.
outside. That's
Yep.
amazing. That no Broncos player that I can ever recall has ever done that.
He's already ready.
He's ready.
He's already buying in.
He's ready. And I think that more so than his post punt dances, I love the ripple effect that he brings to the table of what his specific skill can do. What his specific skill can do to alter the course of a game for the Broncos. You just think about they're buried, they're buried on their side of the field on the 20-yard line or whatever, and all of a sudden he flips the field with this 70-yard punt,
Right.
and it gives the defense an opportunity to pin their ears back instead of having to play on a short field. I mean,
Especially with our D, man.
yep,
He's
it's gonna
gonna
be
he's gonna feed off of that, of putting them in that spot, and they're
yes,
gonna feed off of him doing that, and that's just I'm already excited about that. I'm already excited about that energy that's gonna create.
yeah. We don't want to see punts, but it's nice to know that you have a weapon like that. It's nice to have a weapon at punter, because I don't think people realize how important that is until you have a punter who's bad. And the Broncos have had some bad punters over the past couple of years. I mean, after Britton Colquitt's run in the playoffs, 2016 and 2017 were pretty bad from a punting perspective. No offense to Riley Dixon. I mean, he had a couple of nice kicks. But I don't know. I'm excited to see Marquette King. I'm excited to see what he can do to, like you said, have the defense kind of feeding off of what he brings to the table. So I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed that move.
Yeah.
I thought it was a bold move by Elway to go out and, you get the division rival stirred up again with the Raiders. It's just a new way to stir the pot.
You're reaching straight into their chest and still in their heart right out.
Yep. Yep.
And then
It is.
holding it right in front of them, and then watching them watch their own beating heart.
Yep. Oh, just like on Dumb and Dumber.
That's week 2 preview for you.
Week 2, Raiders, Broncos, Marquette King versus his old team.
Will be 1-0 in that game, or Vance Joy is
Vance
fired. Vance Joseph.
Do you
I'm
feel like?
taking Vance Joseph down to the Riptide.
Yeah, he's getting down. He's not going to make it out of Oakland.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll just sign with the Warriors at that point and just jump onto a team that he knows he can't lose with.
Yeah, Vance Joseph's going to the Lakers too.
Lakers, yeah. Everybody's going to Cali. Yeah. I feel like less former Broncos players sign with the Raiders than former Raiders players come to Denver. Does that seem like it's like a thing? You just don't hear about too many former Broncos that sign with Oakland. At least in recent years. I mean, maybe that's wrong historically, but it just feels like
into that.
That's
interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. There may be something to that. Who knows?
We got
Maybe
plenty of Raiders cheerleaders that have joined our organization.
Yeah, and married into the organization,
Mm-hmm.
you know? Yeah, yep. Well, moving on in the offseason.
On that note.
The Raiders had a terrible draft. The Broncos did not. Oh my gosh. I hope Raiders fans will listen. I hope they'll listen because we were nice to them earlier, but they had a terrible draft. My gosh. I couldn't believe it. Every pick they made, I was in awe of how dumb they looked. They didn't have a single pick that I was like, oh, that's great value until 5th round when they picked Maurice Hurst. You know?
Yeah, I was about to say that.
Yeah. That was the only pick that I was like, oh man, that was a pretty good pick.
Well,
But,
in them trading for Martavis
yeah,
Bryant
that's
mid draft.
Yep, I'll give him that.
We give him a little bit of credit.
Yeah, I'll give him credit for the Martavis Bryant trade. That was nice. I was hoping Denver would do that. And that was before Denver had gone out and got Sutton and Hamilton. So for those of you who think that I'm just, wanting this embarrassment of riches, no, that's not the case. But the Denver Broncos draft, it really was, all kidding aside and all bias aside, I think most people agree it was probably the best draft class of any team in the league.
Yep.
And that includes Cleveland, which had 2 picks in the top 4.
Wow.
I would say Denver's draft, starting with Bradley Chubb, going through. I mean, before the 6th round,
change one pick,
yep,
and completely change that draft, and it's Browns take Chubb at 4.
yep. If the Browns take Chubb at 4, I would guess
Broncos
that the
trade
Broncos
down.
trade back. Yep, for with the Buffalo to get Josh Allen, and then who knows what happens. I don't even. I can't even think now, having the luxury of Bradley Chubb. I can't even think of like, okay, who would the Broncos have taken in that scenario? Because you look at what happened in the mid to late 1st round of all those players that were kind of like fringe 2nd and 3rd round guys that got picked, like Rashad Penny to Seattle, and even Colton Miller at 15 to the Raiders. I mean, not all joking aside, Colton Miller I wouldn't have picked in the 2nd round, just based on the fact that Josh Rosen got destroyed at UCLA, like literally couldn't play his final game because of concussion, because of getting hit. You drafted that guy to be your blindside protector at 15. I'm just saying, like, that it doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make any sense. I didn't get it, and so anyway, you had those type of guys going in that range. So I think about what the Broncos would have done with 2 picks in that range, and I think Buffalo did a pretty good job with what they had, getting Allen and then getting Tremaine Edmonds. Those are pretty nice picks.
Yeah,
but they had a lot more in round 2 and 3 to play with, as far as like moving up and moving down and all that.
Right.
So it's just a whole can of worms to open up. But Denver's picks up through round 5, and I would say, I like the Sam Jones pick in the 6th round, the guy from Denver. I like the Keyshawn Bierria pick. Nobody's really talking about that. He was a good player. Jonathan Williams, we've talked about him before. I mean, you could take that or leave it, but they're picks through round 5.
We'll see.
I don't know if he does either. I mean, Philip Lindsay's getting a lot of hype. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what they do there, if they keep an extra running back or 2, or honestly, Jonathan Williams is obscure enough that he should be a practice squad guy. I don't think anybody's going to try to claim him.
No.
If the Broncos cut him, unless he blows up in preseason play. But just listing off these draft picks: Bradley Chubb, 1st round; 2nd round, Cortland Sutton; 3rd round, you get Royce Freeman and Isaac Yiadom; 4th round, you get Josie Jewell and Deshaun Hamilton. That's the money right there. That's where John Elway makes his money on day 3 of the draft. And those 2 picks, fire, just straight fire. And then 5th round, Troy Fumagalli, the Phantom Finger. I loved it. I love this draft class. From start to finish, I love it. But those picks right there, That's going to tell the story. I titled that slide on my post on predominantlyorange.com. I titled that slide "The Foundation for the Future" because I really do think that this group of guys, it just feels different than previous draft classes.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Um,
And I'm still just so stoked about the 3 guys under DT in the manual. I know we've talked about it ad nauseum at this point, but just those 2 guys going down and us still having 3 guys that could be the starters. Like, when have we been able to say that?
Yeah, never.
Long time.
I mean, not since Marshall and those guys back in what 2006.
Yeah.
I mean, and even then, it wasn't that much behind them, but
Closest thing was having a super strong trifecta with Welker, Decker, and DT, and Julius is like a 4th weapon in that.
yeah,
But I can't think 5 deep. I can't think of a time 5 deep.
no, I can't either.
I can't think of a team non-Madden that's 5 deep.
No, nope. Maybe Pittsburgh at some point or another when they had Antonio Brown, Mike Wallace, Emmanuel Sanders.
Yeah.
All those guys together, which is crazy to think about. My gosh. Who evaluates their wide receivers out there?
Right.
They just cycle through. I mean, now they got Juju Smith-Schuster, who's emerging as a stud, Martavis Bryant, who got traded, but he was a stud when he played. And then now they drafted James Washington out of Oklahoma State. I mean, it's ridiculous what they've been able to do.
Yeah.
I want our wide receiver guys to be drinking whatever water they've got out there.
Yeah.
That's nice. They do a good job. I really like those picks. Some reason I've always been drawn to playmakers. I know a lot of people love like picks in the trenches, but I've always been a wide receiver guy.
Yeah.
Always. Like picturing Courtland Sutton in that 14 uniform with like a sick visor and just like he just looks like a bad dude. He's kind of got like a 90s vibe going with his hoop earrings and
and name a single draft pick that we've made playmaker wise in the past 5 or 6 years that's actually done anything.
Yeah. No.
Name one.
None.
Running back, wide receiver, tight end, nothing.
Nope.
I mean, some of the highest ones, Monty Ball and Latimer and
Ronnie Hillman.
Yeah, and yeah, what excitement did we get from any of those guys?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yep.
So the fact that we could be dropping, 4, 5, 6 solid rookies into battle,
Yep.
week 1, like this is exciting. It's very exciting.
I want to be able to in a loss, I want to be able to look at some of these individual players' performances and be like I know we lost that game, but like these guys played well.
Well, of course, and that's the difference between the past couple of years we've been watching, and it's been as our team's been eroding, from Super Bowl greatness. We've had to watch the pieces just fall off, and it's like, well, you're kind of watching this thing topple and nothing you can do about it. So now it's like putting some of these pieces in play. I'm a long game fan as much as a long game player in these other regards. So it's like I'm ready to give them a chance and give them some time. And so if I see some potential and I see some flash and I see that we have some of the pieces that maybe are underdeveloped, but they're there and that are ready to go, then that takes a lot of the punch out of a loss, a lot of the punch out of a season that doesn't go the way you want, because you have things to be excited about if you get maybe some of the other things in place. And there wasn't a lot there wasn't a lot to get excited about going into this offseason.
Right.
It looked like we were just going to continue to corrode. So for us to be in a position now to where we're this excited, I think that's a testament in itself. That's pretty powerful.
It is. It is. And they did it all without drafting a quarterback. The Broncos have somehow found a way to generate this type of excitement without drafting a quarterback in a draft that had 5 taken in round 1.
Mm-hmm.
So and having a top 5 pick, and it was almost like Bradley Chubb was similar to, I'm not trying to compare him to Peyton Manning, but back when we had
The Peyton
Tebow,
exit.
I
Yep.
mean, it was like the only guy that's gonna make it worth our while to replace Tebow is if you get Peyton. Well,
Yeah.
now here it's like, well, the only guy that's like it's really gonna be worthwhile if you pass on a quarterback is gonna be Bradley Chubb. He's the best defensive player in the draft, and so nobody's like upset that Denver has Bradley Chubb. As far as I know, like I can't think of anyone that I've talked to that's like, yeah, I hated that pick. We should have taken Rosen. We should have taken Allen. We should have taken whoever. You know,
Hashtag fire all the missiles.
fire all the missiles. That is gonna be fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to somebody on Twitter today, good friend Bo Vice, and we were talking about Bo Bauer, just random, like Bo Bauer and Joseph Jones, like backup linebackers. And I was just thinking, like, it's not often that you can get excited about this, but like the Broncos are going to have a really fun defense to watch late in preseason games.
Yeah.
That's just that kind of stuff excites me because late in preseason games, that backup quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals is going to be getting destroyed.
Right.
By all these guys who are going to be playing significant snaps in the regular season, that they're just not on the level of the players that the Broncos have ahead of them right now. They have so many good players on the defensive front. It's
4-0.
unbelievable.
4-0 preseason, or Vance is fired.
And he did it last year, 4-0. You know, I mean, he could do it again. He could go undefeated for the second straight year. Here's a question. If Vance goes undefeated in the preseason and then loses week 1, is the fans' reaction still the same?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, because all you remember is the blank slate that you just screwed up.
Yep. If
Especially the Seahawks. Especially when
oh
most
yeah,
fans are already not on board with Vance Joseph anyway.
yep,
And even the ones that are not sold. No
yep,
one's sold. No one sold. That's the thing.
no,
No one sold. Some people are still willing to give him some rope,
yep.
but they're not. There's nobody that's just like, he's the guy. He's our franchise coach. Is that a concept? Is a franchise coach a
Franchise
concept?
coach, yeah, franchise.
But yeah. So and to lose week 1, starting the season off with that mark, to the Seahawks that we still have an open, festering wound, to them being less than themselves, I think it's just a bad omen. It's a bad omen.
Yep.
Oh man.
I would venture even so far as to say that the leash is going to be pretty short for preseason week 3. You know, the dress rehearsal game where everyone's expecting to see a pretty well-oiled machine at that point. Like this is your dress rehearsal, you know? This is week 3 of the preseason, like you better have it somewhat together. I think expectations they're going to be unrealistically high for a coach that everyone has such low expectations for.
Right.
So I think the people with low expectations, if they have low expectations for Vance, then don't get upset if the Broncos lose. You know what I'm saying? I'm setting expectations high. I believe my philosophy, Brandon, is to have high hopes, high expectations, and accept what is allowed, whatever happens.
Yeah.
So
That's a good place to be.
that's how we operate.
My expectations are 9 straight victories going into the Rams game.
Yep.
And if not, yeah, I'm calling for blood.
Yeah. 23-0 until we ain't,
Yeah.
including preseason.
Yeah. I
Yep.
mean, is that a lot to ask? I don't think so.
I don't think so. I mean, the ball bounces your way. You just figure it out.
Yeah.
Adversity. Yeah. I mean, you learn a lot from losing, but if you don't have to lose and you can still learn,
Right.
figure it out. Find a way to do that.
Right.
Yep.
How hard can it be to win a game?
I know exactly. Personally, I can't think of how hard that could possibly be.
No.
uh,
Put me in, coach.
Put me in. We're ready. We're ready to play.
Week 3, I'll show you I'm ready.
Yep. I'll be in game shape by then.
I'll be that Arizona quarterback that gets destroyed.
Yes.
Real fast.
Arizona's got some injury-prone quarterbacks, man.
Yeah,
wow.
I could be fourth string and I'll finish out the season.
Yeah, there you go.
There's one year that really pissed me off about the Tebow thing where it was like, I think it was like Skelton or something. Cardinals were in a position to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
I think they may have even started like a third or fourth string guy in the first game of the playoffs. And it's like, really? You're going to tell me you had a better chance to make the playoffs of that game, or like win that first playoff game with that guy that was like a rookie third string, fourth string quarterback, than pulling Tebow off of free agency that has already won a playoff game? Come on. That's
it did get out of hand.
Issues going on.
That's been always my justification as well, is just saying like, okay, if every team rostered 3 quarterbacks, that's 96 quarterbacks. You're telling me that you wouldn't put him among 96.
Yeah, crazy.
Like that doesn't make sense to me. He's one of 96. Come on. He's one of 96. I haven't heard back from this. I went on this Arkansas radio show back when Tebow was young, before he was even in the NFL, I think. And I guaranteed the guy that Tebow would have more playoff wins than Ryan Mallett.
Wow. You should have that. Have you found that audio and sent it to him?
No, I don't know what happened to the audio. I don't even remember the name of the show, but I remember he basically, so it had started off with me talking. I wrote an article that Arkansas fans, it didn't set well with them because I was bashing Ryan Mallett because I didn't like Ryan Mallett. Ryan Mallett came off to me as like this really cocky, arrogant, and not good enough to be cocky and arrogant, And so I wrote about that, and this Arkansas website picked it up, and the Syndicate Radio Network invited me to be on their show to basically just laugh at me like, you think Tim Tebow is going to be this NFL guy, but yet you don't see the NFL potential in Ryan Mallett. Like they literally laughed at me on air. Like it was embarrassing. Like I was mortified. I was humiliated. And but I held to my guns. I was like, I bet you when all is said and done in their careers, I bet you that Tebow has more playoff wins than Ryan Mallett. And that was basically where they ended the conversation. They were like, all right, this guy's got to go.
You got to go. All right, bye.
All right. Peace. Deuces.
Funny.
Yep. So, I mean, I feel pretty good about that one. I don't know where Ryan Mallett is, but he didn't have a playoff win.
No, sir.
He does not.
Well, you correctly predicted the future on that one.
I did. I feel good about that. And it's not that I don't like Ryan Mallett as a person. I'm sure he's a decent guy. I don't know him. I can't make any judgments about him. I can only say what I observe from afar, but I'm fine with Tim Tebow having a playoff win and him not at this point.
Yep.
So
Tim Tebow's still throwing more 300-yard playoff passing games than a lot of Super Bowl winning quarterbacks.
If you were to look at the starters in the league right now, how many have as many 300-yard playoff games as Tim Tebow?
Maybe 5. 4.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that trivia question, but I'm guessing that Tebow has, and we talked about this on the Tebow episode. It's kind of the Terrell Davis factor. Like Tebow accomplished so much in such a short period of time that he owns a lot of these like accolades that some NFL quarterbacks who've been playing for a long time just don't.
Yep.
So he accomplished a lot in a very short period of time, and that's that. You can't argue with it. You can't argue with the results. It's just It is what it is. So you can't take that from him. Can't take that from us Broncos fans either.
Just win, baby.
Just win.
Close off this Raiders special episode.
The Raiders are getting a lot of play. A lot of play.
I hesitated saying that one too. Might dig myself a bigger hole here.
Yeah, that's all right. They'll be grateful for it. They'll thank us someday. So
we gotta throw them a bone before we just absolutely obliterate them.
Yeah, we want them to think that the offseason is for the Raiders thinking that they're going to be very good. Yeah. Yep.
Well, most of the rest of us will have the regular season, but you can't take the offseason away from the Raider fans. It's all they got.
Yeah, it is. It is. They'll be undefeated all offseason. So, well, this has been amazing. I feel like we did a great job of not only recapping the Broncos offseason, but really just kind of delving into some of the hard-hitting topics that we needed to discuss tonight, like Ant-Man and Jurassic World, and people didn't even get to hear about Spotify stuff, so don't even worry about that.
It's too much. Too much for them right now.
Too much for them right now. Well, coming up next on The Juice, whenever you might be listening to this, we're going to be diving into the offense and the defense for the Denver Broncos. Maybe we'll bring some people on for that to talk about some scheme stuff. I like learning from people about what they observe football wise. So we'll look into that. We'll think about some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'll be the fly on the wall, listening to you and some other expert.
I like to be the fly on the wall. Maybe we'll call up old Jeff.
Yeah. You know? Oh yeah. Jeff needs to get back on. Jeff and a new guest.
Yeah.
For each one.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. Jeff, if you're listening, you've been called out. So
you've been selected for the Hunger Games.
Been selected for the Hunger Games, and I'm really excited too, Brandon. I'm gonna try while I'm in Colorado for training camp. I think we need to do an episode of The Juice while I'm there. I think that's a necessity.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So that's a mandatory assignment at this point. Episode of The Juice in Denver.
Yes.
Yep.
Cool.
Training camp is just around the corner, man. I mean, we don't have much time to continue talking about hypotheticals. Pretty soon, we're gonna have some real life stories to talk about.
Yeah. So, fast approaching.
Yep.
Build with some serious anticipation and suspense building in the meantime as the collision course is set between the Broncos and all the other fragile pieces of the NFL that will be destroyed beneath the might of our power.
We're going to Thanos the NFL. It's going to happen. Well, for everyone listening, we appreciate your support. We appreciate you sticking with us through this and just engaging with us. So if you ever want to reach out to Brandon or I, you can do so. We're always available on Twitter, so hit us up on there. You can find Brandon at Epic Keckler. You can find me at Sayre Bedinger. You can find us pretty much anywhere on social media. We're always around. We love talking Broncos. We love talking pop culture. We just love engaging with fellow like-minded people and people who disagree too. I mean, it's always fun to talk with people who don't agree with us too, and just to have healthy debates. We're trying to bring healthy back into debating about football and other things. So reach out to us. Thank you for listening. We're appreciative of all of you. Go ahead and subscribe to us on YouTube. Subscribe to us and follow along with us on SoundCloud or wherever you're listening to this. Go ahead and just click on that subscribe button, and we'd really appreciate it. We'd appreciate your feedback as well. So
share, Post
Share.
Craigslist ads.
Yeah.
Stand on corners with billboards with the link.
Yep.
Anything you can do to help the podcast, any
We need,
sacrifice that you can make will be
yeah.
appreciated.
Any of you who is talented with the like spinning the signs, like like spinning signs outside of buildings.
If
That's
you're
a
not, just find someone who is. You
yep,
hold the sign, and then have the person next to you do backflips
yep,
repeatedly. And
yeah,
people will look at the backflip guy, and then your sign, and then we'll get paid.
yep. You know what we need? This reminds me. You know what we need? We need
What do we
some
need?
just dope merch.
Yeah, we do.
We just need like some sick like t-shirts or hat or something.
Hmm.
We'll look into that.
Hmm.
Who wouldn't want to wear a hat that says the juice?
Oh yeah. We still need to perfect our logo.
We do. We just need a simple, like you said, a simple logo. Because maybe people listening don't understand. I think that the juice has multiple subliminal meanings. I mean, obviously, orange we associate with the Denver Broncos, of course,
The Orange Crush.
the Orange Crush, and then
Crushing the juice.
exactly, and then over the course of time, we're juicing as much information as we possibly can in these episodes.
We're really trying to find out whether the juice is worth the squeeze.
Exactly. Is it worth the squeeze? I feel like everything we've talked about in the last hour and a half, worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Worth the squeeze.
Worth the squeeze.
Yep.
I'm ready to taste the juice.
I am. I'm ready to taste the juice. I'm ready to wear the juice. I'm ready to see somebody spinning a sign outside of a building advertising the juice.
Make or sell juice at a juice
Sell it.
stand.
Yep. Yeah. Can you imagine us selling orange juice at Broncos training camp someday?
The juice. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
We have our own freshly squeezed juice. Literally.
I'm gonna go plant the tree right now.
Perfect.
On that note.
California's better for that than Nebraska.
Well, yeah. Okay, time to leave Nevada and go to
Oh yeah, Nevada. Yeah,
California.
Nevada. Well, Nevada
No,
debatable.
no.
Yeah,
I'm
if you're
not seeing
growing
any
cactus.
orange trees out here in the desert. Yeah, I'll crack open a
Yeah,
cactus for you.
crack
Drink some
open a
cactus.
cactus. I'll get an ear of corn,
Yep.
and we'll get some juice.
Hmm. On that
All
note.
right. On that note, Brandon, why don't you sign us off?
This is Brandon Keckler and Sayre Bedinger. Thank you guys for joining us tonight on the Juice. We hope you guys have a great night, great rest of your week. And as always, God bless and go Broncos.